You got it. Okay.
All right, we just
Well,
fixed it. We
no
just
need to
fixed it.
repeat.
Sorry about
No need
that,
to
man.
repeat. Good weekend. Went to St. Augustine. Worth it. Go for a day. Don't go for two. Done.
Well, Matt did have a beautiful explanation, but with that being said, now that the audio's fixed, we're good to go. We're good to go. Maddie, go ahead, do these introductions. Let's get this show on the road. It's going to be
All
amazing.
right. So, old friends, we've been here before, but just in case if you haven't, and if this is the first time you're watching this on YouTube or social media, we got Deviate, we got Gypto here, and a little bit of background. So we already went into an in-depth kind of like episode 1 and 2, but just to let you know who we're talking to, Deviate, fascinating background. DJ was a DJ since you said 1996, correct?
Yeah, started out in '96. Yep, a little while.
96. So that's a long time DJing. You did that professionally. You've gone international with that. You've been able to do some pretty large scale events. I would say anybody in any type of entertainment business, man, once you start being able to say you get paid to do it, that's big time. And then when you start being able to travel and really like go around the world doing it, um, that's about as good as it gets. That's really, really cool. I'm sure you have some good stories from there we'll be able to get into. But then on top of that, built a business over the last 18 years, employed people, understands how to run a business. But check this out. The business he's in operates basically in high rises. So high rises to skyscrapers. This dude's jumping off of skyscrapers doing stuff for work. So he goes from nightclub DJing to high rise skyscraper. Very, very high adrenaline lifestyle is what I'm hearing from this. And then on top of that, as a fun fact, this was interesting, especially as an engineer background myself. At a young age, got a job building one of Australia's largest bridges. And so what I'm envisioning now is basically, you remember those famous pictures, Mikey, when people were building the Empire State
Yes.
Building and they're like eating lunch up on I-beams? For whatever reason in my head, I just see Deviate like building a bridge. He's still on skyscrapers, zero fear of heights, just like rocking and rolling. Is that the vibe you're getting?
Yeah, that's the vibe. Yeah, it was just a good transition. I actually grew up on a farm as a kid, and from there went into the bridge building, and like all farm kids do, you go down and have a look at the city, go out into the big smoke, and that's where I sort of fell in love with the electronic music scene, and it was just a progression from there. So yeah, it's been a pretty wild journey so far, and I'm sort of half life now, so I'm looking forward to the second rollout, and the Web3 space
Yeah.
is probably the next big.
Well, it sounds like so far, based on what I hear, you seem to extract the most you can out of every experience. So I think it's going to be cool to see what you do here in Web3. And then we got Gypto, and Gypto for the last 8 years has been running a 3D rendering studio, which is of course absolutely pertinent to what they're doing today and what this project is about. So he's definitely got some credibility there. But in 2020, graduated from one of the the top university in Australia for industrial design, number 5 in the world. But get this, not only did he graduated top of his class with a 100%. So I don't know what that means. I know this. I mean, I thought I was pretty good at school. I don't know how many times graduating with a perfect score. That's pretty legit. So if you're doing that from the top school, it means your industrial design background is going to be pretty strong. Um, but as a fun fact, this one I thought was interesting. Randomly decided, right? Wakes up one day, decides, you know what I want to do? I want to know how to juggle. That wasn't good enough. I want to know how to juggle on a balance board. That wasn't good enough. I want to know how to juggle on a balance board and say the alphabet backwards all at the same time. Took him 3 days to learn how to do that. So just put that in perspective, because most of y'all can't juggle. Certainly can't do the balance board. And so my comment to that was this dude can pass any sobriety checkpoint there is, because if he can juggle, bounce board, and say the alphabet backwards, nobody is going to give him any grief. That's my thoughts. What do you think,
Yeah,
Mikey?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's freaking impressive. What that also shows determination, man. And you have to have
Yeah.
determination in this space. So I'm glad to have you both back. Welcome.
Oh,
Welcome
we're
to
happy
the
to
show,
be here,
gentlemen.
man. Thanks for having us back. Great intros. Thank you.
One
Absolutely,
thing
man.
I'd say, just right off the bat, just talking about the accolades there, it's really cool talking to people who, when they decide they want to do something, they go in 150%. You know what I mean? And it's just that is an immediate theme, even just from the intro on that. It's just like you can't, most people be like, you know what, juggle, that's like learning how to play the piano as an adult. Like everybody thinks it's a great idea, but nobody does it. But yet you did that and then like took it to the next level. And I think that's just really cool because both of you in your endeavors have done that. You've gone to the extreme with it, and I think we're going to be able to see a lot of that in what you're doing with punks here. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, so we're gonna have, like we said, I think we said this the first time we hung out, or we like to say this, we're sitting at a virtual campfire, gentlemen, across the world, which is crazy because thanks to technology, and we're gonna continue to build our friendship here. I think the best way to start this though is it has been some time. I think it's been probably over 6 months, if not more, and
Yeah, a bit more, yeah.
probably more than that. So I think it makes sense to start with you, Deviate. Let's just do we like to say, famous midlife crisis question. How'd you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Give us Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. Let's do 1 and 2, which is your kind of upbringing, childhood, and professional career, and then we'll catch up about Web 3. And then once you do that, we'll go to you, Gypto. Same thing for you, and we'll just have a nice organic conversation. So take it away, Deviate.
Yeah, sorry guys, just had the dog barking at some birds there. Hope it wasn't too distracting.
Couldn't hear it at all, man. I couldn't hear it at all.
So, are we sort of just talking a little bit about the backstory of myself? Was that the question? I
Yeah,
had a
you as your beautiful human being self. We like to hear that part because we are here to humanize the space, and we love hearing that part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, look, I guess sort of Mikey just gave Maddie, sorry, gave a great intro there earlier and covered quite a bit of the journey that I've travelled. But yeah, as a kid, I grew up in a rural area here in Australia. Really loved the whole sort of country lifestyle, which offered just so much freedom. As a kid, we were driving cars at the age of 7. We were, riding horses, and we had a river on the back of our property, so there was a lot of things we did with the water. And yeah, just sort of had a fun time going through school, and I got out of school around the age of 16, and I actually went out and did an apprenticeship as a butcher, which was a good trade to have. And yeah, that sort of just led me into a little bit of a few years out building the bridge that was mentioned there. As kids, we were pretty rough and tough, and living in a container for a couple of years building a bridge, sort of gave you some perspective. But I think the big change for me was, when I migrated down to the city, just to have the experience, and it was quite fascinating to come from. I lived in a small country town. I think we had about 600 people there. But yeah, getting into the city was good. There were lots of exciting things to see, and the exposure then just into coming from country music and just regional radio sort of style stuff, and the city was just sort of like this amazing place where the whole world sort of poured into the city. So there was so many influences from the US and from Europe and things like that we didn't really get much of in the country. So yeah, just met a few people, had some good experiences. I sort of decided that I want to take a little bit of the city away, and I actually did go back up home. And I studied sort of the craft of DJing. Said to myself that I really need to give myself a few years just to be the best I can before I decided to come back. And that was a part of my strategy, was to be away from all the nightlife, but do my trade, so to speak. And while I was actually, away from the city, I sort of did a business course and started up a small entertainment company, and promoted a few gigs in the rural area, which was sort of, back then it was going right against the grain of what everyone else was doing. So it did sort of give me some perspective. But when I got back into the city, I just went on a pretty big adventure there. Fortunate enough to land a job in a record store, and which gave me access to, the scene and everyone else, and obviously got a good discount on buying my music. And just, everything evolved from there. Like everything in life, if you're in the right space at the right time, doors do open. And fortunately, a couple opened for me, and it allowed me to do a bit of traveling and have, some good experiences, out there doing what I love to do. And then just, for me, I sort of go through cycles in life. I think I run on about a 7-year cycle. So I'd had a good run with the music industry, and decided that I wanted to sort of look into something else. So I wasn't up all night and carrying on. But that just led me into running the business with the high access sort of stuff. And it was definitely a very exciting career path. And again, being in the city, there was so much on offer there as far as opportunity. So I established a business and hired a few people, and developed a lot of good things there. And then we sort of came into the COVID sort of situation, which for us here, our business, we got sort of shut down on that, like a lot of people did, and we were unable to earn an income. And I've been mates with Gypto for a few years. We met back in 2017. So him and I had been sort of in and out of a lot of projects in the crypto space, and we'd always looked at what everyone else was doing, and we often sort of said, geez, it'd be great if we had an idea one day that we could maybe work on together. And with that sort of situation that we landed in, being COVID, and it just gave us a little bit of time to have a think about what we were doing. And
So hold on real quick, because now we're getting into Web3. So you did a marvelous job of talking about your childhood and kind of professional career. What were you going to say?
Yeah.
Did you have something else to say there?
No, I was going to cut it off there because I know we didn't want to lead into that stuff. That was a segue to finish up, just saying that the transition from running the business for 18 years, which I still do on the side,
right,
as an income to fund, bootstrap a lot of what we're doing. But I'll leave it there for now. That's sort of a little bit of my journey. Yeah.
So great journey. You said a couple interesting things. Maddie, do you want to go first, or because we obviously want to ask a couple questions, because you did a bunch of different stuff. And you said one thing I'm just going to go with that I think is interesting is you said you run in 7-year cycles. Can you explain that as to why you think that is? Is it because the constant pursuit of learning and growing, or you felt like you've capped out in whatever you're doing? I think that was an interesting comment.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's just and in saying 7, it's just a term, but it has been something, in my life as such a young kid. It was getting the opportunity to do something and just being really passionate about it. And I felt that you know, whether you're playing football or fishing or snowboarding or whatever it was just that for me, it wasn't a competition thing, but I felt that I just loved to get in and understand what I was doing. I always had fun with what I was doing. And you get a sense of achievement, and you sort of, for me, it was, you know, I start here and I work my way through everything. I look for change. I adapt. And then I get to a point where I sort of pivot. And I think it might be those doors that open and close as well. Um, and that was just a part of like I said, I'm sort of hitting half life now. So, you know, I can look back a little bit, and I have always sort of just had that feeling that here I go again. I'm going in this direction now, and that runs for several years, and I find myself like just hitting these points of I'm here now. I let go a little bit, and that's sort of when I make the new transition into something else.
Interesting. Maddie, what do you got?
Yeah, I heard that comment too, and I thought that was very interesting. I do think there's something to be said about that, and also just sometimes we get to a point where we've exhausted our. It's not that we can't get better at it or something like that, but it's that kind of that Pareto principle where 20% work gets you 80% results, and then it takes 80% more work to get that last 20%. And I think sometimes we cap at a point where it's like we just want something different. I think one of the things that caught my attention was you said from you went to the city, kind of got overwhelmed, not overwhelmed, but you immersed yourself in it. But then you went back to the farm, and you said you took 3 years away to kind of find yourself. You said you wanted to really learn and study what DJing was about. You said you took some coursework, and I think that's fascinating because I think a lot of people wouldn't have the well. What caused that? What created that? I need to step back and go for 3 years and maybe work on me. What was the start of that?
Yeah, I think, look, it was, I mean, coming from one environment and getting sort of putting yourself into another one can be quite a big change. And it was for me, it was like going to the circus. It was like, you know, it was just everything was just so exciting. It was so bright. It was so colourful, and I think the music and the just the club life and the people. It was a special time in history for me as well. A time where music brought people together, and there was just this sense of belonging, and I think for me though it was just looking at the whole scene in itself, and just seeing, I mean, even before Melbourne, we used to, as kids, we'd put the old 45s on the record player, and we'd jump around the lounge room. And music, I think, for everyone is a big part of everyone's life. It doesn't matter sort of perhaps what where you come from, or what sort of style of music it might be. It is something that gives us a sense of connection, and the feelings that come through the music. So back then it was just a discovery of this whole new something that I'd never been a part of before, and the mechanics and just the different promoters that were doing the big parties. And um, I guess it was just trying to understand, like, if this was what I wanted to share. I just wanted to share the music with people, and there was an opportunity to do that through DJing. And it was just, I mean, it's quite a complex sort of thing when you go into understanding beat mixing, and how to put track selection together. You can key mix music as well, so it flows a lot better. So there were, when you don't know anything about it, it's sort of can be quite daunting as well. And for me, it was just I think it was just a decision that I made. Like I came down, I was part-time working. I wasn't in, my trade that I'd done, and I basically just had a conscious just decision of, I think I really love this, but I'd be better off getting back home, getting back into my trade, saving a bit of money, understanding what I wanted to really do, and practice, and just get a feeling for how it all works. And then, I always just had this little thought in my mind to go back and just destroy Melbourne, absolutely get in there and, be the best that I could be, because it was quite a competitive space. And the big thing is you could be fantastic at your craft, but if you didn't have a capacity to network, then you couldn't get a foot in the door. And that was probably after I discovered myself and my skill set. The next challenge was how to get myself out there and be a part of it. And that was really interesting once I started to have a look.
So let me ask you this. So you went back, you did some working on you, some reflection, some growing. When you look back at that time, what was something that you can pull from that that's stuck with you, that's been something that's helped you since then, that's made you a better version of you?
Well, I guess, yeah. I think a big part of the luck that I had was, I mean, I'm not sure if this is directly going to answer the question, but when I was back in the country, I was going from a friend's house to somewhere, and I stopped at, this was one night, and I stopped in a pizza shop, and I had a little record bag, and I had this guy come up to me and he goes, "Have you got vinyl records in there?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh my God, I've never seen anyone in the country with vinyl records." And I said, "Yeah, I've just come back from the city and I've bought some Technics turntables, and I've really just want to learn. I don't understand much about it." And this guy had actually been a disco DJ, and he had vinyl records and turntables, and we actually got together. And probably one of the most fundamental sort of stepping stones that I went through was meeting that guy. And he showed me just the basic principles of how to DJ. And him and I actually became obviously quite good friends, which led us into a little bit of an adventure in the bush, which was to start up the entertainment business and have a little crack at putting on some events down that way. So
Sure.
I've had that for probably 30 years now with that guy. We still connect, and yeah, without maybe meeting him, I don't know if the journey would have been as quick or the same. I know I would have probably got there in the end, but it was just just everything aligned that night. And without him, he was a bit of a mentor for me. So I was very fortunate to have that experience too.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
hearing timing and the people you meet along the way have a massive impact, right? You hinted at that a couple times, and I would totally agree
for
with
sure.
you.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in Web3 and the timing of you all having to mint and build a project as well. It's crazy how quickly this space can change. Maddie, any other thoughts before we moved on to Gypto and get kind of similar his story? That was an amazing job, DB8. Like, really appreciate you sharing all of that.
No, that's it. That's what I wanted to pull from that. That was good.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing insight, and we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about as we get into Web3 as well. So Gypto, same thing, kind of the short, brief history of childhood, professional career, so we can catch up and figure out what's going on in the Web3 world as well.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, it's quick before I get into me, just like deviant on the decks. Like the dude can throw some tunes down. Like we've had some pretty killer parties over the 6 years we've known each other, and the dude just throws just neat, super clean, super refined tunes. Just really dialed in. Really good stuff. Yeah, just about myself, like kind of as a kid, like to be completely honest, I was a bit of a nerd. I was a fair gamer. I was just like right into all the consoles back in the day, Nintendo 64 up. It's basically when I kind of came on board. That's the first one that I bought. I had all I had the 64 and the PlayStation. I had all and the Segas. I had them all going. Just a gamer at heart, but I was also pretty much right into sports as well. So I did get outside a little bit, touch some grass. Right into basketball, got into martial arts, taekwondo. Into boxing. I was going to actually compete for state championships in boxing, but I had a girl break my ribs at a party, which was really interesting. She just kind of pushed me over, and I was leaning back on a chair, and she pushed me over, and I landed on a sleeper and broke my ribs. And that kind of just, I was like, that kind of knocked me out of the competition for a bit. Yeah, it was awkward telling people a girl broke my ribs. It still is.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, got into like riding go-karting, competitive go-karting, had a few lap records around Melbourne and all that stuff. So like love racing. In my later, early 20s, I was riding the hottie up cars, turbojet cars and everything. But yeah, started working, kind of just picked up some nowhere jobs, just kind of in manufacturing, just because they were jobs to get. I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I was wasting too much money hotting up cars. But pretty quickly found myself escalated up to management roles in the manufacturing jobs, and while I was in the management roles, kind of like really dialed down on production line efficiencies and made the production lines kind of work a lot more efficient, because I have a good mind for systems and stuff like that. But learned some cool stuff about manufacturing in that kind of process, or different types of manufacturing as I bounced around between different jobs. Then I was getting bored of that. It's kind of like in my early 20s. Went and studied game development or game design at Victoria University in Melbourne, which was really interesting. Did a little bit of game testing work as well on the side to pay my way, and then eventually landed myself in a job for like a local hardware manufacturer that kind of manufactures stuff around Australia and New Zealand, all that kind of stuff. But doing all their kind of like graphic design work, managing, they have like 5 in-house brands, kind of managing all of that stuff, all the websites, e-commerce, while also working closely with the business owner who was right next to me in the office. And I was there for a few years, and it was the first time I actually like worked in a business and saw how a business worked from the inside. They also like operated a lot of the administration as well, and kind of learnt about invoicing and quoting and all that kind of stuff. And that got me really interested about business. And I was kind of there for a while and was still kind of feeling a little bit lost. Like, that was interesting. And I was like, maybe I want to start something and do something for myself. But while I was there, I got challenged by the boss to learn like some CAD software so we could do like product design. And we started like developing in-house products, rapid prototyping, all the 3D printing stuff really early in the day when they first came out. And I really got into that. I really enjoyed the process of like designing and building something and sending it to market. And then you kind of like was into it, but was still feeling a little bit lost. And then kind of went on like a little bit of like an existential kind of direction. Got pretty heavy into some Kundalini yoga. Sat a bunch of like 10-day Vipassana, noble silent meditations at Buddhist monasteries and things like that. And just did a bit of kind of real checking in with myself to see kind of where I was at, and kind of made the decision that I wanted to just kind of go out on my own and do my own thing. Kind of be my own boss. So around that time, I like kind of hit the boss up, and I was like, yeah, I got to bail. I've learned a lot, thanks very much, but I want to do my own thing. Wanted to also upskill a little bit as well, so I started looking around for graphic design courses just to kind of solidify my graphic design skills a little bit. And in the process of that, I was offered a full tuition scholarship through Laureate University to do graphic design there. So I took that up, and while I was doing that, I was like, I need to make some income while I'm doing this. So I started a business which I started 8 years ago, which I'm still running today, which is a 3D rendering architectural visualization studio. Because I have like a background in like game development, which is all like 3D software as well. I've got a pretty keen eye for architecture and design and that. So that kind of worked, and started a studio. Been running that for 8 years, which has been really good. Just kind of got like a small team that we all work together. And then kind of while I was doing that, and I was at Laureate University, I met like a really cool guy who was into like the local electronic music festival scene around here, and he was kind of talking to me about. I was showing him some kind of like sculptures and stuff that I make on the side, and he was like, you know, you should get into some, you know, he thought about going into some music festivals to do art installations that have grants to go in and do that kind of stuff. And I'd never heard of that kind of stuff before or seen those kind of festivals, and immediately just submitted an application to put in a big art installation at a big music festival, and it was accepted. Went out to the music festival and just like absolutely love it. Like, you know, they call them transformative kind of music festivals for a reason. They're pretty impactful. And then, yeah, kind of got right into that scene, did a bunch of music art installations, which was really fun. And that's kind of progressed a little bit now as well, where I've had some avenues opened up recently to get into stage design. So I've done like a couple of stage design for electronic music festivals, and there's avenues kind of opening up for that to kind of do on the side as a bit of a creative outlet. But yeah, while I was kind of getting into like making the art installations and doing a bit more sculpture work, I was like, man, I really enjoy this. I like the product design stuff, so decided to go back to RMIT University to study industrial design in 2020, and I absolutely love the course. Like everything about industrial design, and it's not just physical product design with industrial design. It's also like digital product design. And there's a lot of service design and system design in it. And I found that through that process that I have a pretty good knack for basically systems, understanding systems, system design, and all of that kind of stuff. And that all kind of ties in, you know, with what we're doing with the Web3, with the project, and a lot of those skills kind of like come together, skills and experience come together to lend themselves to what we're doing over at the Punks. But yeah, I think maybe that's a bit of a crash course on the journey to get to where we are so far.
I remember now. It's all coming back to me, and that was a good crash course. Maddie, I have a kind of one question before we get into catching up on what's happened last time, or do you have anything you want to go first?
I can go. That's fine. Sure. Yeah. So bring us back to this existential meditation, woosah, I need to be my own boss moment. I think that this is good because, listen, man, I think a lot of people have moments like this, but they're not. Maybe they just can't slow down enough, or they're not quiet enough to take some time and listen to it.
Yeah.
And I know Mikey's got a journey, you know, and I just think, and I know I have one. It's just interesting to hear people's kind of moment. How was that for you? And what allowed you to kind of like dig into it and really listen to it? Because I think you know, we become better people when we listen to, if we just take some time and listen to ourselves. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like 100%. Well, what kind of like prompted it was, well, firstly, I was working that job at the hardware manufacturing place, and I was really kind of getting over it, but I needed to work. Everyone needs to pay the bills and pay the rent. I started having moments. I don't know if you guys have ever been like in a car crash where you go to hit the brakes and you're not gonna stop in time, and you're about to slide into something. It's a horrible feeling. Like you just want to stop, but you know the impact's coming. And I started having that feeling like when I was rocking up to work and pulling in the car park every day. I'm like, I just want this to stop. Like I don't want to do this. But I just had to. It was just happening. I couldn't really stop it. Like I had bills to pay and everything like that. And it was just a terrible feeling. And then you know, a bunch of things kind of happened, and then I got wind of. I'd always liked the idea of going off to one of those meditation retreats, but never really pursued it. And then the opportunity kind of like presented itself to me, and what actually got me across the line for it was they were like, you know, it's 10 days of noble silence. Like you don't talk strictly for 10 days. And I was just like 100% I'm in. Like the whole world can just like shut up. Like the phone can turn off, the emails can stop. Just everyone, the whole world can just shut off. I can just go have some time to myself and have a good think about what I'm actually doing, and like, am I happy doing this? And yeah, all my mates, it was over a New Year period as well. It's the only time I could get to do it. And all my mates were like, "Oh, enjoy your meditation retreat," and I'm like, "There's nothing retreaty about what's about to happen. This is going to be pretty savage because it's 11 hours a day of sitting in a hall." Meditating with disciplined meditation, it's pretty savage. It's a hard thing to do. But yeah. But yeah, when it did that, and there's a whole bunch of other things, but ultimately it just kind of came down to like you said, like I think a lot of people's struggle to find the time to slow down and really have a decent touch base with themselves. But I think when you do that, or if you can put yourself in a position to do that, you start asking yourself just more really fundamental questions to life, and like, are you really happy doing what you're doing? And yeah, there's an awesome quote by Seneca, who's a philosophy. He's got his memento mori, which is quid facade respite ad mortem, and it basically means, you know, everything you do in life, contemplate death, which is like, it sounds quite morbid, but it's really powerful, because every time you go to make a decision, if you do contemplate the fact that you are eventually going to die and you're not going to be here forever, you really start to think about that decision differently, and you think, is this actually what I want to be doing with my time that I'm here? So kind of that in mind, and just touching base, kind of realised that I wasn't really happy, and the time is ticking away, and I just wanted to kind of do things under my own direction. I understand that there's risk with doing that, but kind of caught onto it at not a too late of age. So like, it's easier to take bigger risks when you're a bit younger, and just decided to go for it. But very, very happy that I did. A couple of times when things haven't worked out, I've gone up and gone back and picked up work to kind of get by, and kind of hated every second of it. It kind of felt like I was eating my soul a little bit, so I bounced straight back out and got back into just doing my own thing, and felt much better.
Beautiful story, man. And what was your let's say biggest takeaway from that kind of that experience, whether it be about yourself or a realization that you had? I mean, I know you said that you weren't unhappy, but anything else or any advice that you could give to somebody that is thinking about doing a similar thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I have for me, it's a very powerful technique, the Vipassana meditation. I've done lots of different meditation disciplines, and the Vipassana one's quite different to most of them. It's very like physically based, like physical body based. Very powerful, even if you don't look at it from like a spiritual side. Just the science and kind of psychology behind it is absolutely rock solid and checks out. And it's all about like kind of dealing with cravings and aversions, and understanding that everything's temporary, nothing's permanent, and if we don't react to cravings and aversions, that they'll go away. They all go away. And if you can bring that discipline into your daily life, it's very powerful. Because you stop reacting to things that you don't want to do, and you stop reacting to things that you're impulsed to do, and you just observe them, and then you kind of just look at them more rationally and logically, and act accordingly. It's a very, very powerful practice.
So what I hear is discipline was the main thing that you took away, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing for everybody to learn. And it's a hard thing to learn, right?
Yeah, it's a hard one to learn, and a harder one to implement, and a harder one to be consistent with, definitely.
Yeah, that is wild. And did you say during that retreat it was 10 days of silence?
Yeah, so it's 10 days of silence, and like the gong. So in my room's like a little cell under the hall, like with like 6 other dudes, and it's basically a bed and it's a curtain. And the head of my bed was right next to the window, and outside the window they had the massive gong, like the 4-foot diameter gong that they wake everyone up with. And like 4 in the morning, the gong would go off, and it'd wake me up, like proper wake up. And then it was like, it was 11 hours a day. Split into like 2 and 3 hour blocks where you'd go sit in the hall and just practice the meditation. And it just, it's pretty savage. And yeah, sure.
So here's my question for everyone here. And I want to start with you, Mikey, because I'm curious. In 2023, how many people do you think could just be silent? Forget 10 days. 2 days? 3 days?
No chance.
And here's what I'm saying, and I want to add a caveat. I don't mean just silent, like as in you don't speak. I mean in terms of quieting your mind. You know what I mean? Not needing to scroll on social media or check a Facebook post, or when your phone buzzes, immediately respond to it. Just like you were saying there, Gypto, when you were saying how like no alerts, nothing, just like radio silence. I wonder how many people could go 24 hours. I mean, people get like anxiety about not having their phone for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's wild. What do you think?
I think a majority of people can't last past a half a day, if that.
Man.
Well, it was interesting because I was chatting to some of the guys that were in the group, like when the 10 days finished, we all like hung out for a bit and just kind of, obviously chatted about everything that happened. And there were some dudes that were like, this was out in the bush in the middle of nowhere in this hall, and there were some dudes that like literally jumped the fence and walked out into the bush and just had a conversation with themselves because they just had to talk. I guess it's like, I'm quite an introverted person, so it wasn't as much of a challenge for me on the talking front, but some people just couldn't get past the talking. But it was actually the no talking that actually got me there. That's what I was keen for. But the actual trying to quiet your mind for 11 hours a day is just a completely different thing again.
I just can't reiterate enough. I just think that we get in our own way, and we're so distracted. Mikey will call me or something like that. He'll be like, "Bro, I got the best idea ever. I was in the shower and this came to me." And it's so funny because people talk about shower thoughts all the time, and sometimes I think it's just because it's a window of time we just can actually be in our own thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how like Michael come up with the greatest idea in a 10-minute shower. I'm like, could you imagine if we just did like 30 to 40 minutes a day of this? And what would happen? But yeah, anyway, just some thoughts there. I don't know. It's wild how sometimes if we just stop trying to figure it out and let peace occur, the answer presents itself. So probably some wisdom there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Deviate any
100%.
comments on this beautiful conversation?
Yeah, I just think, I'm again a bit of gratitude back to Gypto, and just the mention there of Kundalini Yoga. He has been someone that I've known for several years as well, and I've always looked up to him a little bit with just there's just something about him that always sort of I felt comfortable with, and hearing some of his stories over the years just used to absolutely blow my mind to think, gosh, for me, just conceptualizing some of the journeys that he went on, I just couldn't fathom myself doing it. But fortunately, I have made a lot of changes, and like Maddie was saying, when you get that opportunity to slow down, and the big slowdown for me was COVID and being displaced from my normal life. It allowed me to move through so many of the things that I was fearful for, and I think I think that's one of the biggest sort of traps that we have as humans is to live in the thought of fear. And when you can come past and through that, which I think the key words are acceptance. I mean, life is very busy, and we always have things coming to us. It's just how do we react to that, and how do we flow with it? Maybe not so much hanging on to things, just letting things be. So yeah, it's the Kundalini Yoga was just another little sort of thing that Gypto had been doing, and I went and had a bit of a look at that, and it's been one of the most amazing things that I've done. It's like a reset each week, and I just the meditation side and things like that is just really really fascinating, and breathing I think is a big thing. People when you learn how to breathe and you understand breath and how it works and how to use it, breathing can be just an absolute amazing tool just for everyday movement. And love it. Really just
awesome.
in a good
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Gypto, one last question, then we'll get into the Web3 side of things. You're an entrepreneur. You've done a lot of different things, but you weren't an entrepreneur there in the beginning, as in you were going to a job and you weren't happy, right? Other than the meditation, where do you think you got your entrepreneur bug or the courage to take that big step or leap? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's like it was a little bit about kind of what I was talking about pumping the brakes and just not being in control. I've been generally always been a bit of had a bit of an issue with authority, like a lot of people do, the daily grind of doing the same thing over and over again kind of killed me a bit. like to just have creative control. Generally been a pretty creative person, like I was nailed all the arts and design courses at school and all that stuff. So it makes sense to kind of want to have creative control of your life. And then I think, good. It's just good to kind of be your own boss, do your own things. Sure, there are risks with it, but with risk comes reward. And it's like it's asymmetric, risk to reward, isn't it? Like, if you're in a job, your reward's capped at what you can make, unless you have like commissions and stuff like that. But if you kind of go out on your own, the risk is essentially negative what you could be making in a job on a fixed income, but the reward is just completely uncapped. It's just like, how high can you push it? And it's not like a quantitative financial value to look at it. It's not about money. It's just like, what opportunities or what freedom does that unlimited, uncapped upside kind of open up for your life? And what could you do? What kind of happiness could that help you bring to your family and freedom? And honestly, it just mostly comes about freedom, really, to be completely honest. Just want to be free to be able to do what I want to do.
I love it, man. Great answer. Maddie, any thoughts before we get to Web3?
Yeah, just on that topic real quick, I do think it's interesting though, because you said it's not all about money, but here's the thing, even if you did oversimplified it and just made it about money, I think that's something that people miss, is this idea that somehow having a job is without risk and being an
Yeah. Yep.
entrepreneur is with risk.
Yep.
And we just talked about COVID. It's like, ask how many people how
Mm.
stable your job is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ask anybody in the service industry, or I mean, come on, a lot of industries were massively affected by this, and so just because somebody else writes your paycheck doesn't mean it's secure.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
100%. It's really,
I
really
think
good point.
both paths have risk.
Yep.
It's just, one is whether you're gambling and letting somebody else just determine it, and one is you determine it. And so I just think that was a big thing for me to realize. I was like, well, geez, yeah, I can I could lose everything I have for both of these. So it's
Yeah.
something to think about. But yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
All right,
great
Micah, let's
point,
move
man.
forward. Web3.
All right, so Deviate or Gypto, either of you come to bat. Last time we talked to you, I think you had not even minted your first your first go at it yet. Might have been right before it. Take us through the roller coaster of Web3 and what you've been through. Kind of catch us up to current date, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Cool. Do you want to have a crack at that one, Stevie?
Yeah, look, I'll jump in for a bit and maybe we can segue together on it. But yeah, when we did first come in and hang out with you guys, I think it was pre-mint. We were kicking off the minting just at the end of what we would probably call the last bull run. Fortunately, we had a good community, and we did a small mint batch of just under 500 NFTs. And these were for our OG CryptoPunk pioneers. And from there, we sort of had a bit of a regroup on getting our marketing strategy out there. And, being new to the space, we put a lot of time into to build the CryptoPunks product. We've done a lot of development leading up to our first mint. And it was the marketing that I think was probably one of the most challenging things. That the space at the time, when the bull market was in full swing, was quite an interesting sort of place to sort of be navigating. And anyone that had been around back then would know that there were so many projects just firing off. A lot of it, I think, was driven by big influencers, big budgets, and people that just knew how to work the Twitter algorithms and get sort of noticed more than others. So I think we just sort of we were just one of the little fish in the big water, and although that we did have something to offer, we just didn't really get the exposure that we probably could have to go deeper into our mint. So we sort of hit from there. We sort of hit the bear market started to come through, and there are a lot of really big sort of world events that happened, I think, through that period as well. We had some pretty big market manipulation, which sort of scared investors off. And then I think we had the Ukraine war kicked off. And pretty much, you know, it was inevitable that retailers weren't going to be interested in the space while it was sort of, you know, everything was destructing around itself. So we went into a bit of a, I guess you could say, a bit of a hold pattern. We were, you know, having been in the space for probably since 2017, we were accustomed to market cycles. And we sort of had a few good conversations to each other about just sustaining the bear market. But I think, like any adversity, there's always positivity that you can find in there. And what it did was it gave us a really good opportunity to have a bit of a look at what we were doing, have a bit of a think about why we were doing it. And in that sort of conversation and thought, we were fortunate enough to have a bit more of a look over our direction and roadmap that we had in place, which was, you know, quite diverse. There was some interesting stuff that we had planned there. Probably some of the key ones was we were looking to take the cryptid punks from you know, the pixelated PFPs into the sandbox and get them done in the voxel style. We also had it in the roadmap to stop off at Decentraland. And prior to the bear market, we had engaged with artists, and we had a lot of community activity around designing wearables and the characters and stuff like that. So we sort of did get pretty deep into where we wanted to go direction wise. But again, the bear market just gave us a bit of time to think, and what we came out of that was we didn't really feel that the sandbox was going to be ready. It was still in, I think, in a beta phase. Decentraland was good. I'd actually bought into a few projects and had gone in and checked out, you know, some of the functionality of those spaces. But I think we just sort of then came back to ourselves and said, well, you know, we want to develop the punks into, you know, 3D avatars. We wanted to take them beyond Sandbox and Decentraland, and we sort of went down the path of sort of, I guess it was trying to conceptualize, or trying to not predict, but just have a bit of an understanding of where do we see this whole space in a few years' time. At the present moment of when we were discussing all of this, we just realised that, you know, there still was a lot of development that needed to happen for a lot of the markets and a lot of the you know, metaverses to really open up to be how would you say, marketable to maybe a bigger audience for them to actually have a real use case. So yeah, we just had a bit of time to look at where we wanted to go in that direction, and that led us into the development of avatars into gaming engines. So we decided to park Sandbox, we decided to park Decentraland, and we started to put a lot of our focus onto the Unity game engine and Unreal 5 game engines. And we've sort of brought the project back over a period of time. We've put a new contract together, and there's a lot of functionality in this contract that we didn't have in the old contract, which is pretty exciting. And maybe Gypto, if you want to jump into some of the diversity of the contract and maybe some of the game engine direction.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's pretty
So
cool.
before, real quick, because the contract is kind of the newer stuff you're working on, right?
Yeah.
I want to go through this time of, you know, minting, and you guys learned a lot, right? You are in a really interesting position in the fact that, you know, we've been actually fortunate here. I think it's over 90% of the people that have been on our show actually still exist. But that's very rare, right?
That is rare.
And most people get defeated and just vanish, right? So take us through a couple of your thoughts of what you would have done differently knowing what you know now. Or, you know, I think we'll do that. And this is more in the sense of just sharing with the NFT community, or if there were any project founders that might find this stream online, what advice would you give to them, knowing what you know now, going through the last, let's say, 8 months?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, like the main struggle that we had, and I think it's the main struggle that most projects have, is just like the exposure side of things. And we drastically underestimated that coming into it. We were kind of like a little bit hubris in a way that we were like, this project's sick, this is just going to fly. And when we first launched it, we actually got into an alpha group just straight off the bat that pumped, and we were like, oh man, this thing's just going to erupt. And then it kind of just got a little bit lost in the noise of everything that happened, and I really struggled with the marketing, and we reached out to influencers. We got a bit rinsed there. We brought a marketer on board that just didn't perform, and just kind of struggled making that noise. And kind of during the pause and the holding pattern and the rebuild, one of our community moderators, Hacky, who's an absolute boss of a dude, he actually went off and picked up work for a larger NFT project. And he learned the process of like building collabs up and just marketing through collabs. And he came back to us when we were like, so all this was happening. He was off working, and we were basically in the rebuild, restructure, and we got a new development team on. That's another key lesson, is like be very, very particular about the developers that you bring on, because they're really the core of what your product is, really. So we brought on, we switched developers to a more experienced, older and more experienced developer that's actually a team. So rather than just having the one dev, we have basically a CTO with 4 devs under his belt. And we just liaise directly with him, and he's an older, more experienced chap that has been running business and knows how to professionally kind of build a product and communicate well and all that kind of stuff. But so while that was happening, that's a key point. Just like really pick your devs really well, is a key one. While that was all happening, we started chatting to the guys again, and we're like in the team, and we're like, guys, we're rebuilding, we're about ready to go. And the Hacky, our community manager, kind of came back to us, and he said, he's like, I've been working for this other big NFT company. Like, I know how to do this now. Like, we can pump this with collabs. So we basically put him on as a collab manager, and he's hired a whole bunch of collab managers underneath him, and built a team of collabs, and basically started building momentum that way. And it just started to build. So yeah, don't at all in any way underestimate your marketing, and have a good plan for it, and make sure it's going to check out, because you have the best product in the world, but if people don't know that it's there, people just don't know that it's there, and you're just not going to get the momentum. So that's the really big bit that happened.
And what do you think, in your mind, the most effective marketing method you have learned over this experience has worked for you?
It's been the collabs. It's also the other lesson is just like this kind of steer clear of influencers. Like they're like, so many of them just loaded with bots. So many of them they're scammers. The rates that they charge are ridiculous. They're pumping out that many projects anyway. Like, who's really listening. And then the other thing that we're actually doing is, and this is an interesting thing for any founders out there that are listening. Twitter has had like a pretty tight policy on NFT and crypto projects advertising, like their advertising policies. And just over the last recent week, they've reformed their advertising policy for crypto and NFT projects. So there was a process you had to go through where you had to submit all your company registration, your VAT details, and all that. And apparently, it's quite a lengthy, arduous process. But they've recently reviewed that over the last week, and they've made that process a lot more streamlined. They've relaxed the conditions. So we're already in the process of starting to get that advertising, basically NFT advertising certificate for Twitter through, because when we essentially kind of get through, start our mints and funds start coming in, we're just going to start pumping Twitter ads as well, because we'll be able to afford essentially like millions of advertisement exposures across Twitter. So that's the next kind of stage of our marketing that's going to come in when we have the funds. It's also kind of like important to note that while we've been building this thing for like the last 12 months, we've been funding it all out of our own pockets. And it's not cheap, keeping everyone employed, all the mods and the dev team and just everything else that comes with it. It's pretty expensive. So when we kind of start our mints in a handful of days and the funds start coming in, things change a lot for us. The funds kind of come in. More team members come on full time. We have a bigger marketing expense, and everything kind of shifts gears this weekend. So, and a large part of that will be the focus will be taking those funds and recycling them through Twitter ads, and just kind of getting the large mass exposure that way.
Nice.
Sure.
That's a lot of good information. Go ahead, Matty.
Yeah, no, I really love that, and I mean it's a great point. You say, I mean, best product, but if nobody knows it's there, I'll tell you, a lot of people. That's a struggle, I think, for everybody. I mean, we're in the media business, right? But Mike and I believe we have a fantastic product. However, there's this temptation, right? You can buy followers, you can buy likes, you can do that stuff, right? But to your point, the reason you shy away from influencers is you realize how empty a lot of that is. And so there's this balance. Like, how do I find people who have a real, genuine audience and following, right? The problem, though, is that Mike and I are going to bring the numbers of somebody that might have hundreds of thousands of followers, but like you said, how many of those are bots? How many were paid for? What do you really get out of that? And finding that balance. And so, to your point, you found that, for example, Twitter advertising seems to be a good use for your dollar. What are your thoughts? Because I mean, collaborations is trying to kind of associate yourself with the most influential communities there are. Uh, what are your thoughts still around that as like a viable methodology for projects that are still trying to say, hey, if this guy's got a ton of influence, quote unquote, can this be effective?
Yeah, it's like the collaboration method. It's a ladder to climb, and it takes time. So like when you start off and you've only got like 500 people in your community, you need to collaborate with people of equal size, and they're generally projects that are in the same position that you are. And a lot of the bigger projects won't look at you until you have like 20,000 Twitter followers. So like how do you get 20,000 Twitter followers? And it's just like you kind of just got to start dealing with collabs of your same size, and you just kind of like trying to like leapfrog your way up and build your community and get into bigger projects that just have bigger exposure. But that it seems to have worked. And now that we only ticked over 20,000 Twitter followers like a couple of weeks ago, but all of a sudden since we got there, the conversations are starting to flow with the bigger projects. And now we've got we're in this conversation at the moment, or Haki, our collab manager, about locking in some AMAs with some of the larger alpha groups in the NFT space that should, I think we're starting to like lock some of them in for next week. So yeah, it works. It's a ladder to climb. It's a process. You just got to grind at it. But for us, it's what's been most effective so far.
Nice,
Love it.
man.
Well, don't worry, we'll have some clips you can use during those AMAs.
Yeah.
Yes, looking forward to it. Definitely.
Deviate. You actually are in a disadvantage because Gypto just did an excellent job at explaining what went wrong, and I'm gonna ask you the same question, but you only can give us one answer. I want you to think hard about looking back. What would you do different? And I'd love to hear from your point of view.
Wow, I was just pondering that question the whole time, and yeah, Gypto did a fantastic job.
Sorry about that.
You can repeat something him said, but I want to hear it from your point of view. What is your number one? What would you do different?
Well, I could probably say, yeah, it's such a learning curve. This is the thing. It's a journey that you go on, and the experiences that you have are what educates you to hopefully make a better decision, moving forward. And there's just so much complexity to it. I think, that the big thing is just trying to understand where your budget is best pushed. And, in this space, everyone's looking to make a dollar. And if I had have probably realized that spending money on influencers to, get exposure wasn't going to be maybe the best way about it, then we probably could have saved a lot of money as well. Having said that, we're at the other end now where we have got good exposure and we are getting good access to the bigger groups. But, it's even interesting now that when we approach some of these big groups, they have, monetary entries into, exposing yourself to them. So it brings you back around full circle to sort of think, well, what do we want when we look at this type of exposure, and what sort of value are we really going to get out of it if someone's asking, for a sum of money? And I think it's just, it's a complex sort of question that you need to answer, and sometimes it's just, looking back on everything that you've done, just try and make sure that you ask the right questions. And sometimes, you just have to just try something and hope that you've made the best decision. There are definitely no guarantees. So,
right. But I think you did a beautiful job answering that. Is you would not do the influencer marketing thing again, and you would really pay attention to where you're spending those marketing dollars. It's actually, in my opinion, easier now, obviously, because in a bull, things are so crazy 24/7. You think, somebody with this big number is going to do something to you, and then you come to find out they're a dime a dozen at that. Because trust me, 75% of those influencers that existed back then don't exist now. I wish we did have 400,000 followers. We would help you out, but we don't. But we're gonna get there, and we're gonna help each other get there. Because I think ultimately what I pulled from both of your answers are, and Maddie and I talk about this a lot. There's just no substitute for hard work over a long period of time, and real followers, real hard work, and good content, good projects, good people. And that will always win out.
Genuine relationships.
The universe does reward hustle for sure.
Yeah. And just being, I think we're going, to though, the hustle, but there's quality, right? Quality over quantity is gonna win out in the end in this space. I think as a bull comes back and you guys have quality to your artwork and a quality to your ideas, and we have a quality to our content, and that stuff in the long run is gonna win out.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely agree.
So let's do this. Maddie, do you have any questions before we kind of get into current state?
Yeah, I just have one question. It's similar to Mike's, okay? But he asked you what you would change with what you guys were doing. Here's my question. Knowing what you know now, all right, what would you say to someone who is just entering Web3 today?
Ooh, great question.
They've gotten interested in NFTs, but they're coming in a bear market. They did not see the crazy market we saw, right? They're coming in this week. Knowing everything you know, what would you tell that person? How would you tell them to get started with Web3?
Yeah, do you mean like someone that's kind of just coming in, looking to kind of get into it, not build a project, but just kind of get involved and start maybe collecting
exactly.
Yep, yeah, 100%.
Not a
100%.
project builder.
Yeah, and this is like what we talk about this a fair bit in our project. And like in our project, like because we had a chat with an angel investor like a handful of weeks ago that was keen to come on board. He wanted too much out of the collection. We told him no, because we wanted to get spread through the community, so we just went that direction. But one of his questions was, he's like, you're doing the metaverse thing. The metaverse is realistically going to take, it's realistically a few years away from kind of any mainstream adoption really flooding into it. what are our thoughts about that? And we kind of agree. Like before, like the mainstream really pumps in, it's realistically a fair way off. But for us, it's like utilize that, kind of leverage that situation because that gives us time to kind of get in, like establish a foothold on our brand in the space, and just get the thing built and just be here and just grow trust in the community so people can trust us, because it's such a scammy space and so many rugs and just things not working that we think long term it's trust is going to be the most valuable commodity basically in the space. So that's why we're really keen to just get in and get the brand established now and just plant our foot in the ground and just let the trust build. So in years, however long it takes for the masses to come flooding into the space and into the metaverse. This is kind of answering your question, is what to look for is you look for like genuine people that are genuine people in the space that have been around, been here for a while, that you can trust. Don't just go aping into any project, any hype project. You're just going to get rinsed. If you're aping into something that's just like the charts just pumping through the roof, you're getting rinsed. You're too late. Like you're going to lose your money. You're going to get hurt. You're not going to want to come back. So don't look for hype. Look for just genuine teams, genuine people behind them, building genuine products that have a good community behind them, and chat with your community and just get it, but really research. Like don't invest in the product, invest in the people behind the product, and furthermore, as an extension to that, invest into like the why, as to why they're doing it, like why they're actually doing it, why they're building what they're building. I think if you kind of take that direction rather than kind of chasing hype, and you're willing to kind of sit in the space for a little bit, because that's where the big money happens, is when you sit through the cycles. I think you'll be much better positioned than most people coming into the space.
I love it, man. A good explanation.
Yeah, that was a fantastic answer. I'm going to ask a favor, okay?
Sure.
Because you said a lot there, and if I was brand new to the space, it was kind of fire hosed.
Yes,
If you were to just break that down into maybe a few bite-sized pieces, right?
Yep.
How would you break that down into a few bite-sized pieces in terms of, hey, you're getting into Web3, here's what you need to know today?
Yeah, sure. Like if you're interested in NFTs and you want to get involved in Web3 and you're not sure, don't chase hype. Like look for projects and look at the people that are in the projects. Like research them, listen to what they've got to say. Like learn about them, learn the people, and learn why they're doing what they're doing. And look at the community and see if there's trust. And if that's there, then that's the fundamental catalyst for a good project, and the project will be around for time, and you'll do better than most coming into the space.
I love it, man. Nailed it. Deviate to you. Same kind of, you can mimic what Gypto said, or other, in your own words, quick couple bullets of what you would recommend for people new to the space.
Sure. First off, like, it is a big space. It is quite daunting. And generally when people come in, they're probably mostly exposed to the successful projects, being Bored Apes, the CryptoPunks, and they see the $1 million price tags on them. From there, I think it's if you really wanted to have an experience, it would be is just to sit with yourself, go back into some of the earlier conversations we've had. Just be here without having an urge to feel like you have to buy into something that's going to make you rich so you can quit your day job, buy your dream house, and all of those things. I think that's what sort of pulls people in is the thought of this could be my ticket out of the rat race, and all I need to do is pick a winner. And that's where, just kicking back. I mean, ultimately, it's like anything in life. It's what you put in, you'll get back. So if you just want to go up and ask somebody, what should I do? And that somebody just says, yeah, go and do this and this and this, then you haven't really got a good chance, other than that person's just going to push you into things that probably, might not get you anywhere. I guess it's more, you really just have to be comfortable enough to maybe go and put your hand up and say, hey, I'm new. I've actually seen the project. You know, I want to have a chat. I want to talk to the founders. And you do ask the questions of, you know, why are you doing this, or what's it all about? And I think that's fundamental. But at the same time, when retailers come in and they don't understand about the functionality of what projects are here for, and you know, there's so many little things that projects do to attract people, like staking mechanisms, and if you do this and if you do that, and you're going to make money. And I think a lot of that sort of isn't as productive. It's got to be a long-term sort of approach. Definitely the projects that are building here for the future and understand why they're here, they're probably the ones to probably maybe try and follow. But look, it is tricky. It's just like anything in life. If you haven't had any experience, then it's the experiences that will probably teach you what to do or not to do. And unfortunately, most people get a little bit burnt along the way. But I guess it's you know, tuning into good quality, you know, situations like this where you have long format sort of scenarios where you get to hear and talk, you get a little bit familiar with people, you find that trust. But definitely you just need to ask questions, and the more questions you ask, the more you'll understand, and hopefully that'll allow you to make better decisions.
Yeah, man. Great reply. And I really liked what you said kind of in the middle there, which is as hard as it is, you just can't invest. You put it in the way of don't invest in a project because you think you're going to quit your day job. Yeah. Great way to say it, because that's exactly what happens, especially in the height. I remember getting into this space, all the fake tweets about, hey, I have $1 million of ETH in my MetaMask, knowing that these people absolutely didn't. And you just get caught up in this hype and this craze. I loved how you put that, though. That's a very simple, perfect way to put it, and probably one of the most important things that you need to do and think about right when you start. So that was great, man. Fantastic. Maddie, any thoughts before we move on?
Well, it's funny because, you know, we were sitting there talking about the importance when talking about the importance of meditation and taking time. And Mike, you boiled it down to discipline, right?
Right.
And isn't it funny? Here's if I was sitting there talking to somebody brand new getting into space, you guys ever notice whenever you watch a movie about a particular topic, suddenly right after that movie, that's what you want to do? You know what I mean? You watch a movie about Navy SEALs, you're like, I could do that back in the day, you know, just didn't want to. Or, you know, you watch Top Gun, you're like, man, I kind of want to be a fighter pilot. Or, you know, it's like it's this natural urge when you're introduced something in this really grandiose way to because you're presented with all of the amazing sides of it, none of the bad sides of it. Um, and you know, we see that, and then it's like you get this feeling, man, I would love to do that. And I just think that it's very easy in so many things to feel that way and make poor decisions on your way in. I think that was just a great way of saying, you know, don't jump in for the money because you're going to see that. That's what the movie's going to show you. Look at the money I have in crypto. And then it's like, well, wait a second. You know what I mean? There's a reason people who consistently make money are doing it. Just like there's a reason who are people who are Navy SEALs or Navy SEALs. You know what I mean? It's probably something worth investigating. So yeah.
Yeah, great way to wrap that up too. All right, so moving on, I think I'll go to you, Gypto, since Deviate just gave us an amazing explanation, and that is we're going to start and kind of reset here in 30 seconds or less. And this is the challenge. Please, Gypto, tell us what Cryptid Punks is all about.
In 30 seconds or less. It's a hard one. We got a fair bit going on. Yeah, but the CryptoPunks project, we remastered all 10,000 of the original CryptoPunks in 4K 3D renders one-for-one attributes, so they're not randomly generated. We've remastered them all one-for-one. And you'll be minting those as reactive NFTs. So as you get that NFT, at the start you'll just get the 4K PFP, but the funding round from the mint is essentially building a game studio, which we're developing right now. We have the artists coming in, and we're developing all of the punks in the Unity and Unreal 5 game engines for both mobile and high-end desktop PC games. So by holding a CryptoPunk NFT, you'll have essentially 5 NFTs in one. And when you connect to different metaverses that we start to partner with, you'll be able to enter into those metaverses as your punk that you hold in your wallet, as it's a reactive NFT.
Nailed it. A little more than 30 seconds, but that was a concise answer, and that was the point of it, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons we do it is because we love to cut this. This is a great clip to cut up to send over to you, so you can put it up on Twitter.
Nice one, thank you.
We can go through that. Now that we're not under the gun, though, I would love to kind of talk about, and here's what we can do different. We usually would go to the next 6 to 8, 12 months, but I'd like to kind of touch base on what is different this time around, and then we can go into the mint and the future and the price and all that. But what do you think are fundamental differences between last mint and this mint, and why are you doing those things?
Yeah, sure. Well, the main one, obviously, is we have a much more substantial following now. I think we're sitting at like 24,000 Twitter followers, just a bigger community. Is a big one, obviously. But for me, it is the shift in direction from originally we're going to build straight into Sandbox into Decentraland to switching to Unreal and Unity is 2 things. One, all the quality metaverses are going to be built on Unity and Unreal. So by having the assets built for those game engines, it's just a matter of us knocking on the door of metaverse projects and establishing partnerships with them where we can essentially just plug and play our characters straight into their metaverses. So obviously a little bit of development work that needs to happen there. But 2 things what that does is, one is it basically starts giving us exposure across all these different kind of projects. People will start seeing the punks running around and asking the question. So that's a good passive exposure mechanism. And the second thing is just building them on Unity and Unreal. I wish I could show you guys, because we're getting close to the mint. We're actually, the funds that start coming in, we're bringing on the artists full time. We're essentially building a game studio. And we have the first concept artist that's been working with us for a bit, and he's all the crypto punks have heads but no bodies, so we have to kit out all these punks and avatars in clothes. So we're going for this Fortnite cross cyberpunk style, real stylized style, but we're going to just absolutely dial the quality right up on it. And the guy that we have that's coming that's doing the high detail, basically our high detail artist. Just the work from his portfolio is just absolutely next level. The in-game assets just look, to be completely honest, I think they look better than the PFPs that we have now, the 4K PFPs, which is but in-game. So we're keen to get them out. So it's going to give us this much more visually striking media content to promote with, and people are going to get a lot more excited about it versus if we were going with the Decentraland and Sandbox.
Right.
And also just kind of in the process of establishing partnerships with these different metaverses, we're essentially going to look to create utility for our punks in each metaverse that we partner with. We've already done that once with RFox. There's some good utility happening for our projects over there that integrates into their play-to-earn systems, and they've got a massive audience already that's already participating in their stuff. And we're going to look to replicate that as each metaverse that we connect with. A part of doing that is that we need to create a hive for ourselves that we build in-house utility that we can use to kind of leverage and negotiate better utility arrangements with these different projects. But in doing so, the kind of idea is that we're going to look to make this Web3 cross-metaverse project utility pollination. So if you kind of imagine the punks are the bees, we have our hive, and when the punks kind of go out into these different projects, it's like the bees going out into the garden and collecting pollen and bringing them back to the hive. We're going to kind of do that and have a web of utility happening across all these different projects. And in itself, when that happens, it should kind of like bring a bunch of these projects together as well and make like this kind of like little web cluster in the Web3 space, which is another kind of like byproduct of what we're aiming to do. So yeah, to answer your question, what's different is that's a really big difference. Switching from Sandbox and Decentraland over to these game engines really opens a lot of doors in terms of like utility and just like visual appearance and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And so when you say reaching out to these other projects and building utility, are these metaverse specific projects only?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically looking for metaverse specific projects, and there's actually some other projects that we can, once we get the Hive built. The Hive will be a little bit down the road in terms of the development, but when we get that done, we can look to start bringing other projects in. And then just like we also have the opportunity, because we basically have an in-house game studio that we can look to facilitate services for other projects looking to do game development and avatar development as well as an additional revenue stream for the business. That's something a little bit further down the road, not as high priority at the moment, but definitely something we're going to open up to as we get further down the road.
Awesome, man. Deviate, anything to add there, or did Gypto kind of nail it?
He's all over it. Yep.
All right.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Maddie, any other thoughts there after what you heard, or can we move on?
No, I think that's good. I'll have some kind of big picture thoughts, but let's move on and I can do that at the end.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so this is kind of like we're winding down. Believe it or not, we've almost, been talking for 2 hours. We've had some fantastic conversation. One of the last kind of things we like to do is, and you did it a little bit there, Gypto, but let's talk about, can you reveal the mint date, the mint price, and then after that, what do the next 12 months look like for CryptidPunks?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. The mint date is coming up. It's like this Saturday, depending on your time zone, probably the 7th of April. All the information's in our Discord. We're going to start making some noise about that very shortly, but the announcements are out. The mint price varies, so we've got the mint price staggered in 10 tiers. It's a big collection. It's a 10,000 collection. We can't reduce the supply because we're remastering the original 10,000 punks. So we did, like, one thing we learned from the last time was 10,000 is a lot to sell. We did sell 500 from essentially the OG collection, which up until yesterday, there was only one available for sale on OpenSea with a floor price of 1 ETH, which was nice, as we minted at 0.05, but a couple of us come on the market because they know we're coming to mint trying to offload the old one. So there's plenty for sale. I think the floor price is like quarter of an ETH or half an ETH at the moment. But with the big supply thing, we've broken it into 10 tiers, and the idea is like, how do you eat an elephant, just one bite at a time? So we've broken it into 10 tiers. The price is discounted the earlier you get it, and you can actually get further discounts if you mint multiple punks. So we're doing them as like punk packs. So if you mint multiples, you get a punk pack, you get discounted, then you go in the chance to kind of win some ETH. We have like a $20,000 ETH giveaway happening over the mint, $2,000 per tier that's just going to be given away to minters. And if you mint like up into the higher packs, there's loot that comes with it. Like there's some really nice plush, like hoodies and caps and t-shirts, and they just go out with the packs. It's not like you have to buy them; they're just part of the actual pump packs that you get. So yeah, and in terms of price, like starting price, which is a conversation that happens a fair bit in the AMAs we're holding in the server. It is a bit more of an expensive mint than a lot of the other mints going around, but it's done. We've basically priced it as fairly as we can because it's a big project that we're building out. We've budgeted everything as tight as we can to deliver the roadmap that we're saying that we're going to do, but we're also doing it with a 2-year runway to ensure that if there is any like kind of extended bear markets or anything like that, that we have 2 years to build out what we want to do while we develop a self-sustaining revenue stream through the business. So we can guarantee that it is like going to be built. But yeah, the cheapest kind of mint price I think starts at like about 98 US and works its way up. And then obviously you get all the benefits and stuff like that if you mint pump packs, all of that kind of business. I also think that kind of starting at a higher price will help establish a higher floor price as well when we kind of get into secondaries.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying higher price and you say $98. I'm like, well,
Yep.
that's pretty reasonable for everything else that's out there. So
Yeah,
you got me
anything a fair
all
bit more pricey, but
yeah,
yeah.
you
I
got
was
me all
ready.
like
I
I was
was
like, oh
ready.
shit, man, this guy's gonna drop a half ETH on us or something.
That'd be great, but that won't sell.
No, man, that sounds really reasonable. No,
Just
that's
on top of
fantastic. Deviate, you got something?
just on top of that too, as you was mentioning the packs, if you do mint up into packs of 10, you're getting a 30% discount off the price, which is pretty cool. And just other things to note, we are accepting USD stable coins as well. We do have a defensive mint strategy that we've sort of put into the contract. I think for people that have been around and minted projects, that you can get some ways into a mint, and then you can have bots come in. You can have a lot of people that are dumping back into the market, and it can actually drop the price under the actual sell price. So we've put in something that alleviates the floor crashing. It protects everyone that's coming in. We also making the NFTs soul bound. So just to explain, that is no one will be able to trade the NFTs until the whole collection's been sold out. And again, that is just put in place because we don't want any volatility through the mint. It can really create massive headaches for everyone. So we've looked to put in some strategies that protect everyone. And once we get through the mint, we can open up trading. And people can do whatever they want from there. So yeah, it's a pretty sort of good implementation, we think, to just stabilize everything as we move through it, which is great.
Very interesting, considering that you're going to roll this out in multiple segments as well. I like this soulbound token idea. What was can you give us details about the defensive contract at all? Because that's interesting as well.
Yeah, it's you can go for it, mate.
No, you're right. It's okay.
That's just like that's kind of like the strategy. It's just like we're going to soul bound so we can't get any floor crashing bots or people crashing the price through the mint to ensure that the mint sells out. So it's defending the project and also defending minters as well. And it's USD peg. So it might take us a little bit openly, open to the idea that it is going to take us a little bit to get through the mint. Like it's a large collection. So basically locking the NFTs in the wallets until we get through the mint, but also it's USD pegged. So if there's any like market volatility and the market crashes while the NFTs are sitting there, you're not subject to market volatility as well. So
how are you doing USD? If I'm assuming you're still connecting a MetaMask, are you doing this all through a web interface or?
Yeah, we got just a web interface like Mint Portal, and we're just accepting USDT, USDC, DAI, BUSD. You can also pay in ETH, but the ETH value will fluctuate based on what ETH value is at the time of mint.
Right.
So and so it's strictly USD pegged just while we're in the defensive mint strategy, and then when we open the gates for trading, they're just trading for ETH on the secondary markets. Yeah.
No, I love this. So basically, your ideas are tiered, not tiered, but multiple phases of mint, US dollar, being able to pay in USD, and then in addition, soul bound NFTs until the collection is sold out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I catching everything?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. And then also we'll be doing through like up until we'll hold a reveal party at tier 4, and then each subsequent tier after that. And we'll be dropping the $2,000 ETH giveaways in those reveal parties as well. And just on the tiers, they start off smaller and they get a bit bigger. So it's just about kind of like building the momentum. It's kind of like eating that elephant one bite at a time and just building momentum and just kind of dealing with it that way.
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know if it was just money and smaller batches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it starts off as smaller batches and heavily discounted as a way to kind of get people in, get the momentum going, get the mint rolling through, and then builds a community that way as well. And people are incentivized as well when they're kind of in minting to share, promote the project kind of organically as well.
So the first batch, how many are in the first batch?
I think the first batch is like 350. We have a reserve VIP mint happening for this. There's guys who've been in the project since like last year that have been itching to get in, and just as a support, a thank you for them, we kind of gave them like first dibs on the first tier, and they're itching to go. And then if they mint it out, then we just open tier 2 for everyone that's on the punk list. Or if they don't mint it out, there's not heaps of them. If they don't mint it out, then we just open tier 1 for everyone in the punk list, and we work our way up from there.
So the price you were saying was based on tier 1, correct?
Yeah, tier 1's the cheapest you can get in at 98, and it kind of like increases its way up to incentivize people to come in early and build that momentum.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome, man. That's it's nice and refreshing to hear people thinking about how to do things differently too. And I think this output of what you just said is a testament to you guys listening, learning, and growing through what you've been through, and not just trying to give it a go at the same way you did last time. So that's really cool. And I think that actually adding that to your narrative as much as possible in your marketing, I think is huge in the future. And definitely want to cut a video or two up on that for you as well.
Yeah, sure. Great.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, listen, we live, we learn, right? I mean, this is how the world works, but it's interesting too to me because, during the bull run when anything was selling, it didn't matter what you did. People were just they could put up anything and people were excited because they wanted to flip. What's interesting to me is had people taken a little bit more time, right? And it's not like they didn't have the teams, it's not like they didn't have the money. Some have a tremendous amount of money. If people had just taken a little bit more time during the bull run to create effective mint strategies similar to this, you know what I mean? And I'm not even saying this is the end all be all, but I'm saying you've thought about it. You took time to say, how does this make sense? If more projects had done that, you have to wonder, how different the case would have been. Would so much money have left the market because of just people burning through gas or getting scammed or getting rugged? It's like if more projects have been doing this, it would have been a massive indicator on the projects that were worth investing in. I just think that's something that's interesting to be said. Anyone who's looking at this now, I hope they recognize what you guys are doing, especially during a bear market, to try to make a successful mint for everybody involved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And so that kind of last question, and we actually have one kind of closing question, but the last question kind of about you guys and the project is, what does the next 12 months look like? You hinted at it, but let's hear that, because I think
I didn't kind of get around to it. The next 12 months of the project is, well, so essentially what's happening is the funds are just kind of around the corners. We're building an in-house game studio, and we are looking to develop all these characters across the Unity and Unreal game engines. We really want to push the level of detail and raise the bar from anything that's been seen in the space, just like we did with the PFPs. There's something I can't talk about yet. I'd really love to, but I might come back to you guys with that sometime soon and have a bit of a chat about it. But yeah, we're building a game studio, and then basically, like I was saying, like solidifying the Punks brand in the Web3 space, and then sending out the punks, for this kind of Web3 cross-project utility. Pollination is a really big thing. That's going to take time to roll out. And then really just kind of growing the community, establishing trust, and doing everything we can to just solidify the brand as a trusted brand in the Web3 space for when the masses come. That doesn't sound like much, but there's a lot in that. And then there's also the avenue further down the road to facilitate game development services for other projects as an additional revenue stream for the business.
I love it, man. And I think it's cool. Again, you are doubling down on making sure you find a way to sustain an NFT project and build a revenue stream past mint, which is a necessity going forward.
you won't survive if you don't have another revenue stream. A lot of projects just kind of banking on secondary royalties. I just don't like. That's nice to have a little cream on top, but for me, that's not a like a tangible kind of reliant revenue stream. I don't think. I think you need something that's economically and commercially viable. And there is a large part of that another revenue stream that will be generating that. Just not quite ready to talk about it yet because we're still in the process of rabbit holing down that and just doing our DD to make sure that we can deliver what we're going to put out there. So we're still kind of sifting through the weeds on that and ticking boxes. But there's another revenue stream coming, and it's a big part of the project.
Awesome, man. I love it. TV, anything else to add, or did Gypto nail it once again?
Yeah, I think it's just a perfect three there. It's develop the project, build the brand, and engage and build community. They're the three keys for me for the next year. Yep.
Perfect. All right, so last question that we've kind of added. I don't know if we had it when you were on, but you guys in particular been in this space for a while, hundreds of AMAs at this point, been in them, listened to them. Like to get feedback about how you think tonight went, feedback for Maddie and I, because we want to get better and grow stronger each and every episode as well. So I'll start with you, Deviate, and then you can go, Gypto.
Yeah, probably, just for any project founders out there that are getting going. Again, we see Twitter to be one of the main hubs for NFT exposure. I've had experiences over the last year in many different types of spaces. And I think that, when we look at the mega spaces and the 5-minute elevator pitches and all the hype is, well, personally for me, and I think Gypto, it's not what we're attracted to. We have sort of had opportunities to get into smaller, more intimate spaces. Maybe, not with the 2, 3, 4, 500 people in there, but, just your 10, 15 or 20 people, a more immersive and connective sort of experience. But to be quite honest, I actually think what you guys are doing is really the best opportunity that any project could have for exposure. It's a long format sort of thing. Spending half of the time that we've been here just talking about ourselves, going, through life experiences and sharing, I think is just an awesome way for the community that follows and listens in to find connections. And obviously, as important as that is just the follow-up with, what we're doing with the project and how we're going forward with things is great. And I don't know, it's just, you guys you just have a fantastic way about how you present it and just the flow that you have, the vibe that you give off, the way that you just lead us into things. It's a pretty, for a lot of people, public speaking and all that sort of stuff is not what we do every day. I still get nervous, which I think is good, but as we move through it, and especially with you guys, I can feel the tightness in my tummy and my heart rate come down. I get more comfortable. And I think that's just when you get into your natural flow, that's when you give your best. So I wouldn't change anything that you guys are doing, and hopefully you can start to get the exposure that you deserve, because I think for us, if anyone actually said, hey, point us in the direction, it would definitely be to come and see you guys.
Thanks, man. That was amazing words, and we really appreciate it. That makes me, what you warm my tummy there, right there. Gypto, any other thoughts there? And then Maddie and I will do our closing comments after this as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like just kind of reiterate everything that Davey had said. The last time we got off the show with you guys, we actually jumped on a call straight after, and I was like, man, we really relaxed. Well, we felt good coming out of the last one. It wasn't what we didn't really know what to expect coming on. It was like the best AMA that we did, and we was like, man, that was good. And Yeah, you guys, it's got a good vibe, and it's cool. Like, it's definitely the way to do it. I think that the long format's the winner. Like, and kind of like what I was saying about like you invest in people, not the things. Like, I've studied a little bit about like venture capitalism and angel investors and all that kind of stuff. And just a key point across all my studies with them is that people that do that for a living, like professionally, that throw around serious money, they don't invest in products or services. They invest in the people driving the products or services, because you can have the best product or service in the world, but if something changes in the industry, and your product or service becomes obsolete, then you got nothing. But if you've invested in like a person that's driving and passionate about it, they'll shift and they'll shimmy and they'll change and they'll make it work and they'll adapt, and the business will go on to live. And it's without streams like what you guys are doing here in the long format, that's kind of facilitating that kind of genuine human connection. I don't think you really get an opportunity kind of elsewhere in the web3 space specifically to kind of have that connection, understand and learn about the people that you're essentially investing in. So I think you guys are onto an absolute winner, and the long format is killer. The vibe is top shelf. I think what you guys are doing, where you're looking to like cut up snippets and into bite-sized pieces, I think that's key for you guys. I'm not sure if that's like a thing that you've recently started doing, but in the Web3 space, people are pretty time poor, and if you can just like capture like the authentic, genuine connection that's happening, and chop it into little bite-sized pieces that you can start to filter out into like Twitter and the NFT space. I think, yeah, I really think that's going to be key for people who are going to, they'll hear it, people get familiar with it, they'll get to know you guys, they'll start trusting those little bite-sized pieces, and then you'll get more of them going, yeah, I might, I'll jump into these longer format ones. And I think it's only a matter of time before you guys really start to blow up. If you keep kind of pushing that idea, I think you guys are onto an absolute winner.
Yeah, thanks, man. That just more kind words. And, we say this every time. It's been 100% similar feedback. And, it's just now the time getting the right exposure. And we'll keep on doing what we do. But yeah, more effective on the short form content that we've been starting to push hard. I think you've commented and liked some of the stuff on our Twitter. And hey, I mean, you're a product of you reach back out to us because you liked the first time, and that's happening more and more. And yeah, man, we're in it to win it together. You know that much. I'll let Maddie say his closing comments. I'll say mine, and we'll call it a night, gentlemen.
That's good.
Absolutely. I mean, another fantastic conversation, and it's really cool because getting a chance to reconnect with people who have already been on the show is a different feeling for Mikey and I. Most times during the week we're really forming a friendship and learning about somebody, but we don't know who we're talking. We don't know, man, is this going to go good? Is this going to go bad? And it's nice when we already have a connection, because it's like, okay, good times, campfire. Let's catch up and see how things are going. And obviously, you guys have some things moving along. My main point I want to say is just to anyone listening in the space, you guys are so thorough about what you're doing, and it is very easy. We're coming up on, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're like a year now in essentially this more of a depressed market with crypto.
Mm.
And at this point, people have to realize, if somebody was there then and they're there now, they're not here because they were trying to make the fast money. You know what I mean? They're here because they want to be. And I just think that you guys have really demonstrated something that's difficult for any business to do, which is take a pause and say, what are we doing? Is this the best use of our time and our energy, and can we pivot? And you guys were willing to pivot, which is hard to do because so many people get ego invested quickly. You guys were willing to do that and move in a direction that you believe is gonna lead to the future, what we're trying to do here with Web3. And I just think it's really, really cool. I mean, the obvious things are there, right? The artwork's fantastic. You were already bragging about how good, when you get to the full, the outfits and the design, how good it's going to look. That part was easy to see, but behind that, you got to have people that really care about what they're doing, and that's definitely you guys to a T. So as always, it's a pleasure, and I can't wait to see how the mint goes. All I can say is anything that Mikey and I can do to help make your mint successful, please let us know, man. This is how it is. We build friendships on this, and we believe in genuine human connection, and we got to help each other out.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for the
Beautiful.
comment.
Beautiful, Maddie. Maddie always does such a good job at that. I'm gonna add on and just it's kind of what Maddie said there at the end. Well, one, continuing a friendship. The fact that you did reach us back out to us after 6+ months, the fact that we're both still here, the fact that we still are, salivating at what a huge opportunity the space is, and you doubling down on the metaverse. It's just so cool to see that, and I can't wait to continue to grow with both of you and not give up, because you obviously aren't, and we obviously aren't. Two, how in tune you guys were to what we learned, how we're going to grow, and how we're going to do this better this time. And by the way, kind of like us, you kept those small cohort of really passionate people that believe in you as humans along for the ride, and you're going to take care of them. And then you're going to grow this in a smart way by doing the tiering system and all of the other mechanisms that you put into place. I would have been very sad to hear, it was kind of like, hey, we're just going to give this another shot and roll it out again to mint, which I knew I probably wasn't going to hear, but I didn't think I was going to hear the level of detail and the thoroughness that you all have gone through with your mentality. So I honestly really cannot wait. I have so many timestamps. I'm going to cut some videos up for you guys to help you continue your narrative, because you are the people that should be winning in this space. Not all of the other bullshit. You are the prime prototypical type of people and entrepreneurs and just good dudes that should be successful in this space. And we're gonna work together and make it happen, man. It has to happen.
Thank you. That's just here, and we wish the success for everyone that puts in the time and effort.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Very, very kind. Thank you very much. Very, very nice words.
Absolutely. And with that being said, Midlife Crisis is calling it a night. We will be back Thursday with Alpha Traders Country Club. And we love you all. Midlife Crisis is